Precious Alicia Janae Johnson was found dead with multiple gunshot wounds, and 19-year-old Kenneth William Terry Jr. was found with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot. The coroner says Johnson was a patient at the Women's Medical Center and Terry was a visitor.
A 24-year-old woman had just delivered her baby, and before she could even leave the maternity ward, before she could strap her newborn into a car seat, before she could take that first photo outside the hospital doors, she was shot multiple times in her hospital room and killed in the very place that was supposed to be the safest space for her and her child. That is not a movie plot. That is not a crime drama script. That is what happened on March 1st, 2026, inside the Women's Medical Center at Baptist Health Brookwood Hospital in Homewood. Her name was Precious Johnson. She was 24 years old. She had just given life, and by the end of the night, her own life was gone. March 1st should have been a night filled with quiet joy and exhaustion, because anyone who has ever stepped into a maternity ward knows the soft sounds of newborn cries, the slow footsteps of nurses checking on mothers, and the careful smiles of family members peeking into rooms to see a new baby for the first time. Precious had just delivered her first child. Her body had just endured labor and birth, which is one of the most physically and emotionally vulnerable experiences a woman can go through, and she should have been resting, healing, and holding her newborn close to her chest while adjusting to the overwhelming reality of motherhood. Instead, around 9 at night, police received reports of shots fired inside the hospital. Officers rushed to the Women's Medical Center. The hospital was placed on lockdown. Patients, nurses, and staff were suddenly thrust into confusion and fear. And inside one hospital room, 2 young lives had ended. When officers arrived, they found 24-year-old Precious Johnson dead from multiple gunshot wounds. They also found 19-year-old Kenneth William Terry Jr. dead from what investigators described as an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Authorities have called the incident a domestic-related murder-suicide. No one else was injured. But emotional injuries like this do not show up on hospital charts. Precious was 24 years old. She was from Birmingham, Alabama. She had reached a stage in life where many people begin thinking about stability, family, and building something lasting. According to family members, she had recently married Kenneth Terry Jr., and together, they had just welcomed their baby. Kenneth was 19 years old. He was from Midfield, Alabama. Reports indicate that he had recently completed Army National Guard training, which suggests that responsibility had already become a central part of his identity at a young age. 19 and 24 do not sound far apart when spoken quickly, but those years can carry very different levels of emotional development and life experience. Both were young. Both were still growing. Both were navigating marriage, finances, identity, and now parenthood at the same time. Family members have publicly acknowledged that the couple had been experiencing marital problems. What those problems look like has not been detailed by investigators, but the acknowledgement alone suggests that their relationship was not free from tension. And then came the rumors. On Facebook, allegations began spreading that the baby may not have been his. There were claims that Precious had asked that his family not come to the hospital. There were also rumors that she had drained his bank account of money he had recently received from the Army. It must be clearly stated that these claims are unverified. Law enforcement has not confirmed them. News outlets have not established them as fact. They exist as online speculation. But speculation has a way of shaping public perception. Police were dispatched to the Women's Medical Center after reports of shots fired. A maternity floor, a place designed for safety and healing, was suddenly placed on lockdown. Nurses who had been caring for newborns were now navigating emergency protocols. Families who had been celebrating were suddenly uncertain about what was happening. Inside one hospital room, Precious Johnson lay fatally wounded. Inside that same room, Kenneth Terry Jr. lay dead from what investigators described as a self-inflicted gunshot wound. No other patients were injured. The baby survived. But survival does not mean untouched. There's something deeply unsettling about violence entering a maternity ward, because that space represents vulnerability in its purest form. Women recovering from childbirth are physically fragile. Newborn babies depend entirely on adults for protection. The expectation is safety. That expectation was broken. When news of the shooting broke, social media responded in predictable but painful ways. There were prayers, there were condolences, there was outrage, but there was also division. Some commenters expressed immediate sympathy for Precious and for the baby who would now grow up without a mother. Others began asking questions about what might have led to such a drastic act. The word snap appeared frequently. People suggested that perhaps he snapped under emotional pressure. Others argued that heartbreak, humiliation, or betrayal can push someone past their breaking point. There were also voices firmly rejecting that narrative, stating that no emotional pain justifies violence. And this is where we have to pause, because understanding that someone may have felt overwhelmed is not the same as excusing what they did. Emotional distress is real. Feeling betrayed is real. Feeling overwhelmed by responsibility at 19 is real. Recovering from childbirth at 24 while navigating marital tension is real. But none of those realities erase personal accountability. The age difference between them became another point of discussion, with some questioning whether 19 is too young for the weight of marriage and fatherhood, and others asking when the relationship began, although there has been no official statement suggesting it started when he was underage. Legally, 19 is an adult, yet emotional maturity varies widely. 24 is also young, and growth does not happen at the same pace for everyone. When youth intersects with pride, finances, expectations, and the life-changing responsibility of a newborn, the emotional stakes can feel overwhelming. But feeling overwhelmed does not remove choice. There is always a decision point before violence. Beyond the relationship dynamics, attention quickly turned toward hospital security. How does someone bring a weapon into a maternity unit? Should hospitals install metal detectors at every entrance? Should maternity wards operate like high-security zones? Reports indicate that Alabama does not have a statewide mandate requiring metal detectors at hospital entrances. And while maternity units typically use controlled access systems and visitor check-in procedures, protocols differ. Hospital officials have stated that they are cooperating fully with investigators and reviewing procedures. However, even the strongest security system cannot fully guard against determined intent. Hospitals are designed for healing, not confrontation. Yet tragedies like this force communities to reconsider how safety is defined in vulnerable spaces.
I did speak with Kenneth Terry's mother today. As you can imagine, she is devastated. She did not want to speak on camera, but she told me she just can't understand what happened. She said this young couple was having some marital problems, and Precious Johnson did not want Terry's family at the hospital when she delivered the baby, but she still can't comprehend that her son could be violent. 19-year-old Kenneth Terry had a lot going on in his life. His mother tells me he had finished Army National Guard boot camp, had married 24-year-old Precious Johnson, and they were expecting a baby. But Sunday night, after Johnson delivered her baby, authorities say Terry shot her several times and then turned the gun on himself.
I think it's a sad, but this was an isolated incident. And I will say, in my 30 years of working at the Hospital Association and representing our hospitals in the state, this is the first time something has occurred like this.
Because of this tragic incident, Howard says we could see changes to security protocol at hospitals like Baptist Health Brookwood. I wanted to get an idea of the security there. Less than a day after the shootings, I walked through the labor and delivery unit unchecked.
Hospitals always do after action reports and look at what are the lessons learned, what worked well, what might need to be refined. And in doing that, it's not uncommon for the Hospital Association to pull together all of our hospitals to share information and best practices and what worked and what didn't work and what might need to be revisited.
Now, I reached out to leaders here at the hospital. They did not want to speak on camera or address specific questions about security. Howard says there are no security mandates in Alabama for hospitals here, but she says, of course, that could change, and there will be a lot to learn from this incident. Live in Homewood, Lisa Crane, WVTM 13.
Lisa, thanks. Homewood Mayor Jennifer Andrus is reacting to what she says is an active investigation, saying police acted quickly to secure the scene and ensure there was no ongoing threat to the public. She says her thoughts are with the victim, her family, hospital staff, and everyone affected. Andrus says the city is working closely with hospital leadership and will provide updates as appropriate.
While adults debate motive, security, and responsibility, the quiet center of this story is a newborn baby who entered the world only hours before losing both parents, a child who will grow up hearing about March 1st, 2026, without remembering it, who will one day ask who their mother was, and who will carry a story that began in hope and turned to heartbreak before the first day of life was complete. Two families are grieving. Grandparents who expected celebration are planning funerals. Friends who anticipated baby photos are sharing condolences. And hospital staff who came to witness life instead witnessed loss. It is easy to get caught in debate, to argue rumors, to assign narratives, but beneath the noise is a painful truth. A young woman who had just given birth is gone, a 19-year-old young man is gone, and a baby begins life in the shadow of tragedy. Anger feels powerful in real time, consuming and inescapable, but it passes, while consequences do not. Walking away is always an option, even when pride resists. Seeking help is always an option, even when uncomfortable. Choosing not to act in a moment of rage is always an option. Precious Johnson should have left that hospital as a new mother, beginning her journey, yet her story became a warning about how quickly everything can change when emotion turns into violence. When you strip away speculation and social media noise, what remains is painfully simple. 2 young lives ended, and a newborn's life forever altered. We can analyze age differences, question motives, and replay unanswered details, but no resolution will rewrite what happened inside a hospital room meant for new beginnings. Emotions are temporary, even when they feel permanent. The decisions made within them can last forever. This tragedy is not only about one night in one hospital, but about how swiftly judgment can be overtaken by emotion and how one irreversible choice can ripple through generations. A child will grow up without a mother's embrace. Families will carry grief instead of joy, and caregivers will remember the night violence entered, a place of healing. Perhaps the hardest truth is that it didn't have to end this way. Walking away is an option. Asking for help is an option. Choosing peace over escalation is an option. Life can change in seconds, but healing takes years. Words can be forgiven, money can be replaced, relationships can end, but a life taken cannot be restored. Precious Johnson should have walked into the sunlight while holding her baby, stepping into motherhood with hope. Instead, her name is spoken in remembrance. May her child be surrounded by love and protection. May both families find strength in an impossible season. And may we all remember that when emotions rise higher than reason, choosing peace is always the stronger decision.